right. Well, we're kicking this thing off with one of the owners and Ryan Crandall, and we appreciate you for coming on to the show today, Ryan. And really just want to start out, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about yourself, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Logan. Thanks for having me out, even though it's home base for me. Really, it was a cool marriage between NWO Sports and Defiance Physical Therapy to do this. Like you said, my name's Ryan, one of the owners here at Defiance Physical Therapy. Kevin McCann is the other owner. He was tied up at the Henry County Fair today, so he's working his way over. You know, Kevin and I opened the business about 10 years ago in August, and we're trying to come up with something cool to do to celebrate our 10 years. And after talking with you at the office and you agreeing to do this with us, we were thrilled. So this is a cool event. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I think today should be a good day as long as the rain holds off, which we were kind of watching. So other than that, why don't you go kind of into what Defiance Physical Therapy offers? You know, what kind of services do you offer for the community and things like that?
Yeah, you know, the business is really community driven. You know, we see all ages. You know, we really got started with sports medicine, though. We saw athletes, bum clinics. That's really driving our business today. We see a lot of post-surgical patients. But, you know, you know as well as I do, on any given day, somebody's going to call and say, hey, my daughter's got a sprained ankle. What do I do? And we triage that. We point them in the right direction. We, you know, we'll get them in, take a look at them at least, tell them, hey, I think you probably need to get this x-rayed, or hey, I think you need some PT, or, you know, I think you're all right. Here's a couple exercises. Why don't you try these for a week and get back to us? So we want to be that kind of that first call type of facility. And that's really grown our business to the point of where it is today. You know, the kind of that urgent care for orthopedics, really.
All right. Well, I mean, I think you've done a pretty good job at introducing everything. So let's touch on the sports medicine side of things. I know, obviously, this is an NWO sports event. So what kind of injuries do you see here? What other things can you offer the athlete? I know you guys are very sports medicine oriented.
Yeah, you know, so we, like I said before, we do see a lot of post-operative patients, you know, your ACLs, you know, your shoulder surgeries, you know, all those things that everybody's scared about their son or daughter getting diagnosed with. But, you know, the little things, too. You know, one of the biggest things, like as a cross-country runner or an endurance athlete coming in with something that's been nagging them for months, and they don't know what to do about it anymore. They've gotten x-rays, they've done all this, you know, so we see an array of things like that, and we offer a lot of ways of attacking it. So a lot of times it's just, you know, your general exercises that we might be giving them to help them through something, but we also do a lot of dry needling, a lot of cupping, things that are going to be more hands-on to try to get some blood flow to the tissue that might be irritated. You know, our staff is unbelievable, really. Logan, you know, just working with us, just how catering we are to people. You know, we're going to figure it out. If it's not working, we're going to try something different. We're not going to say, hey, we can't fix you. We're going to try. And if we can't, we're going to send you to somebody who can. We just never give up. And I think our staff is so cohesive. That's what's unique about our business.
So going on to the next part, this is your guys' 10-year anniversary. Where have you seen your business really grow in these 10 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. First, most obvious answer is we've grown into the Bryan community. You know, so we opened in Defiance, small facility 10 years ago, and then we moved over here in 2016 to a bigger facility. And then in 2018, we decided to venture out into Bryan. And that's been a great opportunity for us to kind of expand our outreach to more communities in our region. And so that's, you know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of like what you guys do, like NWO Sports. Yeah, you guys are from Tinora, Defiance area here, but you guys care about all these athletes around here, and you want to bring like a product to a lot of people, and you want to serve everybody, and that's kind of what we want to do. And you know, even though we're centrally located in Defiance and Bryan, we get people travel in from all school districts. We have people come over here from Wasion, from Archbold. You know, then Bryan gets people from all over too. You know, outside into Montpelier, Pioneer. You know, out into Hicksville, stuff like that. So it's great to see all these different communities realize just like they have with your podcast, like, wow, these guys are doing a really cool thing. I want to be a part of that.
Where do you see your business going next? I mean, this has been 10 years already. What's in store for the next 10 years? What do you have in plan?
Yeah, the best thing about Kevin and I is if you ask us about our 5-year plan, we both kind of look like with blank stares, like I just did when you asked that question, because it really kind of organically grows into what it needs to be. And so I think still just kind of finding ways to improve on our business and finding ways to, reach out to our immediate community. I don't have any plans to make the business grow all the time. Sometimes it's just like do better at what you know. You don't always have to get bigger to be better. So just improving on what we're doing, finding new techniques. Once again, we try to be innovative with what we do. So I mentioned dry needling already. We try to stay as cutting edge as we can. And so we want to be on the front lines of rehab. And so we've even introduced blood flow restriction into our clinic, which is like using a tourniquet system to strengthen people. And, so I think the focus for the business really needs to be on, making it more crisp, making it more efficient, and being able to serve our clients better, not always trying to find more clients.
All right. Well, I think you've done a very thorough job at explaining everything. Do you have any final words for us?
No. I really appreciate us being together today. I say having me out, it doesn't make sense because I'm sitting here at home, So, but anyways, it's awesome what you guys do. I really enjoy. Picked up listening to the podcast about a year ago, and I'm looking forward to this football season and listening to it again.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we appreciate you coming on, Ryan.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, no problem. All right, here we have Defiance Bulldogs head coach and Travis Cooper. So I want to appreciate you coming on the show, Coach, and we'll get this thing rolling.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so why don't you tell us a little bit, how's the offseason been going?
Well, it's been pretty good. It's over. It's officially over, really, because it's Napoleon week. I don't know if Tyler's around here. I gotta make sure I don't say too much, but
there you go.
But yeah, it's rubber's going to meet the road here real fast. So it's Napoleon week.
Yeah, and that's something we were kind of just talking about too. I mean, this game's on a Thursday, and what are your thoughts on this whole process?
Well, originally I liked it because we get a massive crowd because we get some schools and the coaches and players that don't ever get to watch another game, and their game plan's in. They've had their walkthrough or whatever, and we get a lot of those guys coming out. So we get a great crowd. It's a great atmosphere. But preparation as a coach, I hate it. I just came from a meeting. It's still going on. As soon as I'm done here, I'm going back. It speeds everything up. And like we talked about, normally you've got your Saturday after your lift and your video. And then your coaches have got about a day and a half to digest the film, come up with a plan. When you play on Thursday, it's expedited, and we have to have that plan ready tomorrow morning. So it's going to be a late night for us.
That's the one thing, though, too. I mean, being on a Thursday, we kind of talked about it. It's nice that you guys have such a big crowd. It's the isolated game of the day. So, I guess that is the cool part that you guys have going for you. But even like I was talking about, too, like I remember when I was a player, it throws you out of rhythm, and it kind of throws things off. And, the last thing you want is things that are abnormal. You try to keep things as normal as possible. So.
Yeah, and with the season getting bumped up because of the expanded playoffs, very few schools are going to be in school. So then you don't have that routine, and you're trying to tell kids that want to stay up all night playing video games that they got to go to bed early and wake up early, even though they have nothing to get up for early, but they got to start getting acclimated to that. And we know that most of those kids probably aren't doing that, but sure. You can only control what you can control. So exactly. If our kids are focused on winning this game, they're going to do those little things.
All right. Well, we'll kind of roll into some other questions I got for you, and these guys will pitch into. You guys come into the season, you're loaded at the skill position. You got threats all over the field. You got running back Brogan Castillo, quarterback Brez Zipfel, wide receiver Anthony Wilder, among many other talented athletes. That has to be exciting, I'm sure.
It is. That's kind of we're starting to reap the benefits. When you start throwing freshmen and sophomores into the WBL schedule and the schedule we have, that you're throwing those kids to the wolves, and you're going to have a lot of hiccups along the way. But that experience is going to, eventually those kids are going to be juniors and seniors, and we're getting to that point right now. So it's a real luxury to have those kids back. And it just allows you in terms of installing stuff in the summer. to be able to jump further along in your progression and be able to focus on a lot of the small details that when you're just putting something in and they're fresh and new, I mean, you're dealing with the macro stuff. Whereas now we're able to focus a little bit more on the micro stuff and fine-tune stuff. So that's the luxury of having, returning guys.
Tony, Keith, AJ, you guys got anything?
Yeah, real quick, after the success you had last year, you guys have most wins in 14 years, made the playoffs the first time in 19 years. I mean, what's the excitement like coming back this year?
This town is a football town. I don't care what anybody says. And it was evident of that last year. There have been many years of us getting beat down and not a lot of people in town excited about football season rolling around. And to be honest, last year we were about a year ahead of schedule. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised that we were able to make the jump we made last year. We knew that there's a possibility that, it was going to be a growth process and we could make some strides, but I didn't think that we would get to the second week of the playoffs, at the beginning of off season last year. And the way that our community rallied around Defiance football, I mean, we had more people offering team meals in town for our team, different locations, that we had enough days in the week. So we had to turn some people down.
That's awesome.
We had people paying for chartered buses for us to go to our playoff games, which were a long trek. Not having to go out and ask for donations, just people throwing money at it. People wanting us to have a good student section at our away games, which are a long ways away in WL, to pay the school to be able to have buses, to take spirit buses.
That's awesome.
It was phenomenal, and I think our kids, that was the first time in their lifetimes that they had seen that. And like I said, I really truly believe that this is a football town. It's a blue collar town, and they love their football, and we were glad that we were able to give them some fun Friday nights last year.
Keith, AJ?
Yeah, so obviously last year, Brogan Castile was a stud for your offense. 1,200 yards, almost 1,300 yards rushing as a junior. So this year as a senior, what are you expecting to see from him as far as growth?
Well, we talked in the offseason. There's still some things with his game that he could get better with, and we identified those things, in terms of blocking and, just doing some of the other little things, helping us and spell us on the defensive side and giving us max effort there, when he's in there not saving himself because of offense.
Yeah.
He's a bulldog at heart. I mean, he runs like a bulldog. He is the most physical guy, and he hates the fact that I don't let him get hit in practice much because I know he's going to hit. And he gets so frustrated when it's not live. But I'm telling you, just trust me, all right? You're going to get plenty of contact. So he's a great kid, and we know that teams are going to be keying on him. And, and that's where it gives other kids opportunities to shine, and the eyes aren't on them. They can step up and make some big plays. But Brogan's going to be Brogan. We know that he's going to be at the top of everybody's scouting report, rightfully so. And he's looking for a big year. He's got pretty big goals this season. And he's going to be a big part of everything we do.
Good.
Keith?
Yeah, Coach, I got a couple off the field, I guess, per se. You share the roof with two of the greatest coaches probably in the history of Defiance, Coach Held and Coach Beauty. What's it like to have those shoulders to lean on if you need to, which I'm sure you do at times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I told people when I was, that's 20 years ago when I was first starting to look at head coaching jobs, find me two people that could put better mentors on their resume than Tom Held and Jerry Beauty. My first 5 years of teaching and being at Defiance, I was a baseball coach under Coach Held actually for 6 years and under Jerry for 5. You learn a lot. Now, they are very different in their approach to things. So, it's a grab bag. You pull some things from one guy and some things from the other, and there's some things from Coach Beauty that that's not going to fly in today's day and age with our kids and things like that. So I try to say I'm kind of a meld of the two guys. It's awesome to be able to just chat and bounce things off of those guys. A true pleasure and an honor and something I know I'm very fortunate to have.
Another quick one, Coach, which is probably somewhat up here. See a lot of community service by the kids in the last couple of years. Is that important? As far as a team building?
It's huge. Our kids are phenomenal. And a prime example of sometimes the perception of Defiance and Defiance kids. My best friend's Doug Rakes. He's the head coach at Fairview now, and in his second stint. Last year, I talked him into returning a favor. I helped him out for 1 year, and he helped me out last year. He only had that outside perception of Defiance kids, and he said, those might be some of the best kids that I've ever been around. They are so far from what I thought a Defiance kid was. And it's a testament to them. And we've got kids from all walks of life, and there's a lot of kids on our team that them and their families need those services and those things that we volunteer for. And they're some of our biggest volunteers. They're giving when they are in need. Our top, we do a summer food drive that we pick a local food pantry and donate to, and we've had over 1,000 items each year that we've donated. We help with setting up for Rib Fest every year. We do just so many different things that our kids do, and our top donators the last few years, they're not doing, they're in need of a lot of those things, but they get it, and our kids get it, and it allows them to kind of see the other side, and I think that they see the value in volunteerism. Because ultimately what we want to do is we want to produce kids, no matter what their walk of life is. Football is going to make a difference in their life, and for a lot of them, we can change the trajectory. We can kind of break the cycle, and some of those kids go on to do some phenomenal things, and probably as a head football coach, it's probably the most rewarding thing in my career are those kids that came from nothing, and you could see their life going a drastically poor route, that are now great men, doing great things in the community, and great fathers and husbands, and all those things.
Last question for you here, Coach. You finished 7-5 last season. Tony kind of touched on it. Program's first playoff victory in 19 years, and you've had a much improved season last year. You continue to build off that year after year. What is the next step this season for Defiance football in your third season?
Well, number one, it's keeping the rock in town, and I know that they are going to be chomping at the bit to take that back to Henry County. They're going to be playing with superhuman strength and focus, and our guys cannot relax and let down one bit. So that's the first piece of business. But if we want to take the next step this year over last year, we've got to win some of those games against the perennial top 3 teams in our league. We've made strides, but we haven't been able to knock any of those teams off. And if we really want to be in the top tier of the WBL, we're going to need to find ways to win some of those games, and that'll be a true test if we're going to take another step forward. All
right. Well, everybody, that's Coach for the Defiance Bulldogs, Travis Cooper. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thanks for having us, fella.
Good. How are you, Coach?
Good.
Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Napoleon Wildcat head coach here, and Tyler Swary. Thanks for coming on, Coach, and let's get this thing rolling. How's the offseason been like? Where are you at with things? And let's kind of go from there.
Yeah, thank you for having me. The offseason, we got a full offseason this year. Last year I got the job kind of late March, and everything just got real condensed together. And having those extra couple months this year was really big for not only me but our staff, and gelling with the kids all winter and spring. So
let's kind of go on from that point. We talked to Coach Cooper about the schedule. What are your thoughts on playing this Thursday night game?
Yeah, when you win, it's good, because
Right.
Friday is awesome. But his answer was about perfect. It's in terms of logistics and getting things ready, it's a nightmare. Today's technically our Saturday. So we'll watch film of our scrimmage, and we'll lift and do all that stuff later today. And then obviously you go from there. But yeah, just getting things ready and set, for that Thursday, it makes things difficult.
Going into the next talking point here, this fall is the first year of the expanded Northern Lakes League with 11 teams. What does the competition and league look like for you this year?
Yeah, with our specific division with the small school, we'll see Fremont Ross and Clay. Those will be our two new teams that we'll see, and I don't really know a whole lot about either team. I know Fremont Ross was pretty good last year. They lost a lot of seniors, and I know Clay. I see them every year because they play Northview, so I see that film, and they're always solid. And I know they've got a really good quarterback coming back. So we're excited about seeing some new teams and playing in some different atmospheres. But overall, we'll still play three NLL schools in our non-league schedule, so it doesn't change a whole lot of what we're looking at.
Tony, Keith, AJ.
I just looked at your offensive line, coach, and we got some big boys coming back. And one of the questions I kind of got down here, you kind of need that in your conference. I mean, you're facing all these big D1 schools. You need kind of some big boys up front, especially when you guys run that wing T.
Yeah. When you look at our size around Northwest Ohio, in our division we're big, but then we go play Anthony Wayne and we're the small guys, So we need that size and something we kind of transitioned towards the end of the last year and into this year is we needed some more quickness at guards. So we've got some big tackles, we got a big center, and then our guards are a little smaller just so we can get them moving and pulling and get them outside. So that was kind of our goal this offseason, to really figure that out with our personnel.
Yeah, and I noticed last year you guys ran the ball a lot. I mean, I think it was 448 out of 583 plays. So I mean, obviously that big offensive line is going to be a big part of your game. Yeah,
that's we want to run first, and then use that to play action and get teams creeping in and hit them with some big plays. And part of that last year too was with Blake Wolf getting hurt mid-season. We get our third string sophomore quarterback in there, and it's like I don't want him standing back there too long. And when he does throw, get it to the flats, and so that played a part in it. Owen now as a junior, he had a great off season. He's bigger, he's more confidence, and he's looked pretty good so far. So hopefully we'll be a little more balanced in throwing the ball this year, and so we'll see.
Okay. Keith, AJ?
Yeah, with you last year you graduated Andrew Williams. Who do you have looking to kind of replace him in the backfield?
Yep. Andrew was a special player, and honestly, that was it. This year we've got a couple guys that I think we can get the ball to. Last year I think teams started keying Andrew, and it kind of hurt us because that was really our go-to guy. And I think this year, Trey Rubenstein at receiver is going to be a guy we want to get the ball to. Devin Dietrich is playing our wing. We'll get him out in space on sweeps, and he'll play a slot receiver. And then we got a couple fullbacks that like to get downhill, and Lawson Seibel and Jacob Aguilar. So I think really those 3-4 guys, if we can spread the wealth around, we can be pretty dangerous if we do our job.
Yeah, that's really good. Especially talking about the spreading it out a little bit. The more that one team can key on somebody, we've seen it even with like Tinora's games last year, where they come up against a running back that's dominant, and if you focus on them and shut them down, that's their whole offense.
Exactly.
So it's nice to see teams spreading it out a little bit.
Yep, absolutely.
Keith?
Yeah, Coach. I'll just slide into what Coach Cooper said. What does River Rock mean?
That week 1 game is special, and after you've lost a couple in a row, it makes it even more to get that back. And obviously I've been a part of it for about 9 years now, 10 years, and every time you win, it's amazing, and every time you lose, it's devastating. So we've got the clock in our weight room that the kids see every day on the countdown of when we get to play, and I know they want it back, and they've done what they need to do to do it, and so we just got to be able to prove it on Thursday night and come out and play, because Defiance will be ready, and I've watched their film and they're pretty good, so we have to be our best on Thursday night to be able to bring that home.
So going into your Friday, then, will you treat that as your Saturday, or are you just going to chill and just go watch some football?
After the game on Thursday?
Yeah, so your Friday, are you just going to go watch some games, or are you just going to treat that as your Saturday?
Well, I'd like to probably go watch Liberty Center that next day, you know. So if I'm not doing that, I might be hanging out with my family because, you know, that'll probably be the last Friday I'll have with them. So we'll see how it goes. Depends on how I'm feeling that next day, you know, if I want to go out in public or not.
Might not have a voice. It depends on how the game's
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Next question I got for you, Coach. So last season, you know, you guys started off the season a little rough, 1-4 through 5 games. What's it going to take to get off to a better start this season?
Well, we just got to be focused, and a lot of that, I take the blame on a lot of that. You know, I don't think I had our guys prepared, and it showed. And you know, I think that rough early part of the season helped us as a team get better as the season went on. So, you know, I hope, you know, I've learned some lessons and our kids learned some lessons from last year that we can come out and be ready to go on Thursday, you know, and because that's not a good feeling when you're 0-3 hoping week 4 you get a win. You know, that's not a good feeling. So we want to be ready to go, and I'm pretty confident in saying that we are more prepared than we were last year.
And that's what I was going to ask too. Do you feel like having a full off season, everything? Do you think that's going to play in your favor this season?
Yeah, big time. You know, and then that doesn't mean we're going to win on anything like that. But we are you know, light years ahead of where we were last year. As you know, me personally as the head coach, and I think our staff as well.
Yeah, and real quick, Logan, you know, you mentioned that starting out 0-3, and, you know, sometimes schools, I mean, those first 3 games are probably, you know, I bring up Tinora. You know, Tinora plays a pretty bad first 3 games, you know, and sometimes you guys, you know, you load that first half of your schedule, and you could start the season 0-3, and that doesn't mean you're bad, just you're playing some really good competition.
Yeah, and that's the same thing this year. You know, our first 2 games are against really good teams. So, you know, we could be a really good team and lose those 2 games.
Exactly.
You know? So it's just how the cards fold. So our goal, you know, obviously we want to win, but we want to come out and compete and do things well. And that's what we did. We didn't do that very well last year. You know, we weren't ready. So that's what I want to see this year.
Last question for you here, Coach. This is your second season. Where would you like to see Napoleon, you know, when the season's done and over with? What would you like to see or get accomplished this season?
Well, I think, you know, if we do what we're capable of, I think we can compete for a league title in our division. You know, there's 5 schools in that division. You know, and I think you know, toward the end of the year, if we're where we want to be, I think we can compete for that. And then obviously we want to make the playoffs again this year, and we'd like to go more than just the first round. So, you know, those are two big goals I think that we want, and then obviously. Would like to bring home that River Rock. So
definitely.
That's obviously on top on the list right now.
All right. Well, that concludes it. Napoleon Wild head coach Tyler Swary. Thanks for coming on, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Coach.
All right, let's get things rolling. We got Bryan Bears head coach and Grant Redhead here, and thanks for coming on, Coach. And why don't you go ahead and let's take me through what the off season has been like for your Golden Bears.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been a little hectic. We've had a big project going on in Bryan for the past 3-4 months, and you know, but the kids have done good. Great weight room in the summer, you know, good attendance and everything. It's just out of sorts when you can't go out to the track and run in the summers, and you can't go out and use the field. And you know, we're getting that big turf project going, so you know, I'll take it.
Yeah, definitely. And for those of you who don't know, Bryan is getting upgrade on pretty much the whole facility, I guess. I've been seeing different pieces there, turf field, and they've been doing some really nice things. And I mean, honestly, the way things are looking, it's probably one of the top facilities in the area. So when's the finish date by that? Will that be done by week 1 or
Monday?
Awesome.
Telling me Monday.
Deal.
Barely.
It's done. They're putting the infill in now, and the scoreboard's getting hung today. We've got a big video scoreboard, brand new LED lights. So you know, hopefully we score some touchdowns. You can see them.
That's right. Light that thing up.
All that good stuff.
That's right.
Nice sound system too.
Yeah, brand new sound system. Everything's new but the track, and that's coming.
Wow.
Good deal. Let's go into the next question here. You know, you guys are coming off a 6-5 winning season with a playoff berth last year. You know, what's the goal for this season, and what's the next step for your team to achieve a playoff win?
Well, we always go into goals in 3 steps, you know, and the first step is to have a winning season.
Sure.
And second step is to make the playoffs, and third step is to win the league. And winning the league's a great thing. You know, we haven't done it since I've been here. They did it in 12 and 13, but, you know, that is a goal, and it's important, but you have a winning season and you make the playoffs, that's for the big tamale in Canton. So that's where your focus has always got to stay. And hey,
Right.
if you can win your league back home, that's great too.
Right. Tony, Keith, AJ?
I just looked at, you guys have Chase Kepler coming back, and he did a great job for you guys at quarterback last year, took care of the ball. I mean, I think he only had 2 interceptions all year. So, what's your offense going to look like?
Well, we're spread still, and we don't necessarily have that tight end H, but we're doing some 2-back, and I've got 2 of the biggest backs in the league, and Sam Harold, it's over 200 pounds. I'll say it that way so he doesn't get upset with me. And Damian Wolf is 200 pounds, and they're just thunder and lightning, the big.
Yeah, I remember seeing them last year.
It's nice to have them, and O-line is decent. They're new, but we're just coming into our own. We scrimmaged Napoleon last night. They're big, but like I said, the kids held their own, and I think we'll be able to throw the ball. We've got a good receiving quarterback. It's just developing that O-line.
Okay. Keith, AJ?
Yeah. So you're talking about the winning the league, and I know the NWO is a rough one. Who do you view as your biggest target in the NWAL?
Oh, it's definitely Liberty Center. I was at the league meeting last Sunday, and I went up behind Casey, and I started drawing a bullseye on his back, messing with him because we have a good relationship and like to joke. And I said, "You're it, man. We're all coming for you." And I said, "I'm going to get you a shirt that on the back it's got a bullseye, and it's on the front it says Coach. The only job that everybody knows better than I do."
Absolutely.
Keith, AJ?
I have one, Coach. Actually, I have a couple for you. Circling back to your, basically your field project, how does it feel to have the community and all the businesses come together to make that project happen?
Bryan's an amazing community. That's why I moved from Florida, which, is an awesome football state. And we had a great program, but there's something about the small town. There's something about where the whole town shows up and they support the team, painted windows, everything. It's just a great place to live and to teach and work. And, the way that community raised over $2.5 million in 3 months to get the project going.
Wow, that's insane.
And then there's going to be, they're going to improve the soccer fields and give them a new full practice field, a new softball field for the youth programs, improve the baseball fields, everything, all programs are benefiting. So that's the good thing. It's athletics is definitely becoming a big priority.
Good. Keith, anything else?
Yeah, one more for you, Coach. When the schedule comes out, you throw it down on the counter and say, win, kind of get an estimated record that you want to achieve in your head, or you just take a week by week?
I'd love to be able to do that, but as you said, in the NWAL, you can't count anybody out. Swanton played us tough last year, and they were a 1-9 team, and it's everybody plays up to their best against us and against everyone. It's just good football. We start with Van Wert. They're no slouch, and 2 all-state quarterbacks in a row. I hope it's not a third, when we see them next week. But we look at it and we're like, okay, we should be able to handle these guys physically, but we still have to play. And we look where we match up well, but in our career, everybody's gotten bit at least once by a team that on paper you're better, but they just outplayed you. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
I remember watching you guys last year and just listening, keeping track of you guys and watching the games, and just seemed like every week you were just kind of you were there kind of every week by week. It was just kind of one of the teams that we talked about. It's like, hey, these guys are a lot better than what their record is showing, and that one of the teams that could possibly come in, like you said, just like what you just said, come in and all of a sudden, you kind of look past Bryan and they end up biting you in the butt.
Yeah, we won our last game at the end of the year against Wauseon, and they're a good program, and we came out and our kids played to the best of their ability. They did an outstanding job, and it was a great win. It bumped us up in the playoffs, so we had to go to Elyria Catholic, but we didn't have to go to Cleveland Glenville. I sent my buddy Coach Swary there, and he thanked me for that. But it's good, and like I said, I think we get better as the season goes on, and we keep improving, and that's when you want to peak at Game 10.
Yeah. Last question I got here for you, Coach. So kind of going back to the point, Tony talked about, Jace Kepler. He's a dynamic athlete at quarterback. So you've got him. You got tall receivers. You got a veteran running back, both big running backs. You're spreading the field out, but how do you determine what kind of an identity you're going to have on offense? Do you like to stay balanced? Do you just kind of go, who's got the hot hand? Where do you decide you want to kind of go with things?
Now you're asking me questions on the communist side of the ball. That's what I call the offense, because I call the defense. They're communists. But anyways, you have to look at, we go in and we try formations and see where they line up. We have to see if they do what we anticipate them to do. And then, we go with the game plan. But if the run game's working, you win high school football games running the ball. Definitely. It is very difficult to win week in and week out when you throw it 50 times a game. It's tough, and you lose a quarterback or receiver and you're done.
Right.
So we want to go in and we want to be physical and where we can be. If that's not the best matchup, then we're going to take our speed on the outside.
All right. You guys got any other points? Probably one more question we got time for.
I'm good.
I'm good. I just wish you the best of luck this year. I'm excited. I think our junior high team comes over there to play a scrimmage, so I'm looking at player games. So I'm looking forward to seeing the field.
Yeah, it is impressive, and like I said, it was a great thing to come out, and we have helped the boosters a lot as a football program, just trying to. Whenever they need help, we show up because of everything they've done for us. And that's the great place about the communities in Northwest Ohio. They support their kids and their teams and in their town. So we love it.
All right. Well, we want to appreciate. Thank you, Bryan, head coach, and Grant Redhead. Thanks for coming on. Good luck this season, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Here we have Patrick Henry, head coach, and Bill Inselmann. Thanks for coming on the show today, Coach. And why don't we kick things off and tell us how your off season's been so far?
Well, we had a tremendous off season. We went to 4 days a week lifting, which I haven't done in many years. We really liked the outcome of that. It allowed us to go upper body, lower body. We did a lot of more agility drills, and my assistant coaches did a great job putting that together. So really a good off season.
Good deal. Let's go ahead. Let's move into the next point. Kind of getting into the season. Last season, you did not incorporate a tight end into your offense for the first time in your coaching career. This year, you're back to adding a tight end. What do you feel is the advantage of having a tight end, and where can it help you in the run game? Maybe that you had some troubles last season.
Okay, well, Grant had a great point just a little bit ago. If you want to really be a consistent playoff team and challenge for your league, you got to be able to run the ball. And my first 28 years coaching, we always had a tight end. The last 2 years, we felt that we had a lot of receivers. We didn't have as strong of a line, so we thought we'd experiment with the spread. So we're back to 11 personnel with a tight end at all times in the field. That it balances defenses out. It makes them have to bounce over. Gives us that run capability. We've got a strong athletic line, we think, this year, and we want to be able to mix it up instead of being pass first. So now we just want to mix it up.
Yeah, and I think, it really goes to a testament to you as a coach, because I know there's a lot of coaches out there, you guys ran the ball, real run-heavy oriented. You actually took the leap of faith and, you went into a different type of offense. For you to be that open-minded, I think, that's pretty incredible as a coach. There's not many coaches out there that would be willing to do that. So, have you liked this transition to, the more pass-oriented type offense, or what are your kind of thoughts on that?
I feel more comfortable going back to 11 personnel.
Sure.
At times, to be honest with you, the last 2 years, when I was talking with an assistant coach, it felt like we were just calling plays and not running an offense.
Okay.
If that makes sense, because when you do something for so long and you look for, like Grant said, how are they lining up against this formation, that formation, then you go to part B or C. If neither one of those work, you're probably just not as good as your opponent, and they're whipping you in line of scrimmage. But the nice thing is we did learn a couple things from the spread offense the last 2 years that we're going to keep and incorporate with our tight end offense, and that's going to really make us better down the road.
Tony, Keith, AJ?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, Coach. I know we talked last year. We had you on the program and talked about that, being able to make that transition, to your personnel. And sometimes, we always kind of joke around. You have a bunch of jackrabbits, and you just got to let them get out there and run in space. But obviously, you want to stay more balanced and stay more, kind of keep that run game in place. But with Nash Meyer, I mean, yeah, obviously he's got a cannon for an arm, so I would assume you're still going to throw the rock a little bit, right?
And with Landon Johnson at wide receiver too.
Yeah, you better believe it. The nice thing is, we think we're going to get more predictable defensive coverages now that we have a tight end.
Gotcha.
We did not know in the last 2 years from week to week, half to half, what we were going to see. People, as you imagine, were dropping everybody. We had no running game to threaten them. So I'm back in my comfort zone calling plays with this formation. One of our big surprises is Houston Miranda this year, our running back. He's really looking good so far this year, and that was the one position we were worried. We know our line's going to be solid. Don't have a lot of depth, but he's running the ball well, and we've got a nice receiving core and a nice quarterback. So if we can stay healthy, I think we'll be a solid football team.
AJ, Keith?
I was going to make a comment there. It's hard to compete with a team when they don't even know what they're going to do to stop you. Hard to come up with a game plan there. The one thing with Nash Meyer last year, he was kind of a glass cannon a little bit. He threw for like 3,000 yards, 20 touchdowns, but he also had 12 interceptions. How is this year going past here? How has he matured as a passer?
I think he's matured as far as his ability to read coverages. And then we do a lot with what is called a movement key. We try to look at one position on that secondary and then figure out what they're trying to do by that movement key. And that comes with experience as well. The other nice thing is Nash is up to 205 pounds. So he's a nice running threat. He's not fast, but he can pour it straight in the hole and give you that other dual threat. So
sure,
if we have that one back in the backfield, 3 wide receivers, we can also use him as a battering ram as well.
Awesome.
Keith?
I could stand here and talk to Coach all day. Actually, was one of my questions I had for you. You had Brian Heber in the late 90s, and now you have Nash. Any sort of comparison to those two? Obviously, Coach Heber was first team All-State, I believe, back then, but in today's era, is there any comparison to Nash and Coach Heber?
I think so. They both had strong arms, very accurate. One thing is, back in the 90s, we weren't smart enough and we did not know what was the shotgun. I'll tell you what, if I could have done it and do it all over again, I'd have put Brian Heber in a shotgun. But there's some similarities there, both athletic, good touch, and really a strong arm.
What is your best coaching moment to date, Coach?
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, I think it'd have to be the state championship game in 2005. It's an incredible feeling when that last second hits and you've got that state championship. And it's neat to watch the Hall of Fame game in Canton every year, because I always have our team watch that and say, hey, that's where we want to get back to. And it's just hard to surpass that moment.
I got a next question here for you, Coach. I was kind of doing some research and looking, and you currently trail former Liberty Center head football coach Rex Lindgren for the area's winningest coach by 6 wins. What would that mean to you if your team would achieve those 6 wins this season and make you like the all-time winningest coach in this area?
Well, Logan, that'd be very humbling. And I guess the way I would look at that, I'm just a CEO. And a CEO, as head of an organization, is nothing without his workers below him, which is my players. And I've been fortunate enough to have all that talent in the past 31 years. And then you have to have great supervisors and managers, and those are my assistant coaches. And it's humbling, and you got to have good people around you, or it wouldn't be possible.
Excellent answer.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we want to thank you, Coach. That's Patrick Henry head coach Bill Inselmann. Good luck this season, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to get things rolling here. We have Liberty Center head coach and Casey Mohler. Thanks for coming on the show, Coach. And let's kick things off. Take me through what the offseason's been like so far.
Well, it's been a little bit different, I think, for everybody with the expanded days in May and June and things like that. So it's been pretty busy. We've seen the kids a little bit more than what we're used to, especially in mid-May and into June. But it's been really good for us. We've had great turnout all summer with our weight program and with the number of days we've had, to be able to coach guys. So I think we've had some hungry kids, and they're just like being around football. So we're pretty blessed.
Just curious, what do numbers look like? How many kids you got coming out this year?
Well, this is actually probably going to be the biggest team Liberty's ever had. bad. We've got 68 guys on our roster this year.
Wow.
And for a school our size, I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely. That's something we've always touched on. Like your numbers are always up there, and probably some of the most around this area. So that's very impressive. I think that just goes to a testament to Liberty Center and the culture you guys have developed there for the football program. So
yeah, it's definitely a football community, and a lot of that has to do with the parents.
Definitely. Next point I had, we'll kind of get into it. You've got quite a bit of talent coming back this season, but you also lost some excellent players to graduation. One position that's up for grabs is quarterback position. Zane Zeider graduated. We followed you guys closely throughout the playoffs, and man, could that kid flat out compete at quarterback and win. How is it the quarterback competition this year shaking out, and what's it going to be going into the season?
Well, it's been pretty interesting. We've got a couple kids competing. One of the kids that we were really counting on has been battling an injury throughout the summer, so he's not at 100% yet. And we're hoping once he gets cleared, he's going to be somebody that can compete. We feel really confident with him. But then we've got a junior, Grady Miller, who quarterback JV last year and has really made good strides here during the season. It just is able to manage our offense. We're not asking him to do too much, but he's just getting better every day. And we've got a young sophomore, Mason Smith, who's green, but again works really hard and is trying to get better and better, and really works hard, with whatever reps he gets to get better. And so we feel like we've got 2 or 3 guys that can step in and manage what we're asking them to do.
Yeah, and another point I wanted to ask you, what are you looking in for an athlete at Liberty Center? It's not like you guys go out there and you throw the ball 40, 50 times. So what are you looking in a quarterback to play at Liberty Center?
Well, obviously we want a super talented athlete if we can get them.
Sure.
But, we kind of take a look at, what we've got and what they can do, maybe what their limitations might be, and then just try to tailor what we do around that, so to speak. With Zane, we were able to do a lot of different things because of his athleticism. He could run, throw.
Definitely.
He was fast. He was strong. He was explosive. I don't know that we're going to have all those traits this year, but what we are going to have is somebody who makes good decisions and really doesn't try to do too much. So, in our offense, if you can take a snap and hand the ball off, you're probably going to be fairly successful, and that's probably what we're looking for this year.
Tony?
I mean, I can ask you a million questions, but obviously, like Logan said, we followed you guys pretty close last year through the playoff run and watched you guys play down on Lima, and then we went up to Perrysburg and watched you guys play in that game, and it was so cold. I mean, it was just. I mean, I look at your guys' sideline, and I kind of look down, and you guys. Maybe you guys had a little salamander there, and I look at Elmwood's side, and they got these gigantic, furnaces they hauled out there, and I'm like, man, these things. This is going to make a difference. But I tell you what, that's probably one of the best high school football games that I've watched in a long time. I mean, you guys came out, you went right down the field and scored, and I thought, oh boy, this is going to be over. And then they came right back and answered. And then I believe, if I remember the game right, you guys turned the ball over a couple times on your own end and held them out of the end zone, which I thought was phenomenal. But just how do you improve upon the season that you had last year? I mean, just keep the momentum going.
Well, that's what we're trying to do is take another step every year. I really think it goes back almost 2 years. We made a playoff run in 2021 that was kind of unexpected. At the midway point in the season, we were 3-2, and we were 2 plays away from being 1-4. We won one game on a last second field goal. We won another game in overtime, and so people were starting to chirp about what's wrong and things like that. Well, we just continue to get better each year. We get to the playoffs and we knock off the defending regional champs. We knock off the number 1 team in the state and ended up regional runners up, and that set the stage for last year. And guys wanted to do better than what we had done the previous year, and so that was kind of a stepping stone. And I hope last year's success is a stepping stone for this year. Our seniors are hungry. They know what it takes. They've been there. They're kind of battle tested. So hopefully that can be a springboard into this season.
Yeah, you mentioned your seniors, and obviously you graduated some really good athletes, Owen Box and Zane Zeider, and Hayden Hammondtree. I mean, you got some big big names that you graduated, but you're bringing back some big ones as well. I mean, Landon Bachman was a big thing. Seth Navarre, those kind of guys. So I mean, they looking good for the ready for the year.
Yeah, and those are guys that are the ones who are battle tested. They have experience. They know what it takes, and they want to raise the bar even higher for our program. And they're doing a good job of kind of bringing the underclassmen and the new guys along with them, while also trying to raise their level of game a little bit. They know that last year was last year, and it doesn't really mean anything this year, and so they want to write their own chapter. And we'll see what happens. That's kind of the thing about preseason is everybody's excited. They have high expectations, and next week we're going to find out where we're at.
Okay, AJ.
Yeah, just talking a little bit about the culture you guys have around your program there, and obviously the facilities you guys have kind of are a testament to that. But during those playoff games, we got to watch even after the wins, after the games were over, we got to watch how the community surrounded your team down on the field. It was really cool to see that happen right in front of us. What's it take to build a community like that?
That's a good question. You got to have success, obviously. I think, when you win football games, more and more people come and they want to be a part of it. We're such a small community that, on Friday nights, football's the only thing going on. If you're not at the game, I don't know what you're doing, because there's nothing else to do in town. And that's something that has kind of evolved over the years, really. It started out when Coach Lindgren was there. But it just gets the community involved a little bit. As much as they love football, they want to be a part of it, and that gives them a little bit of a piece of it. Our student body is great. They come out and support us, and they're on the field and taking pictures after the game and things like that. And I think, if they could, the community would stay out there all night. We actually had to put a time limit on our guys on the field and say, look, you got this much time, and then we got to go in and get out of there. So it's really awesome that we have that much support. I know we've had players that have friends and things like that from other communities that have been there and on the field, and they say, well, our school doesn't do this. So it's really a neat thing. And obviously, to get that, you got to be successful and have some wins. And after a loss, it's, you can say hi to your parents, and we got to get out of Dodge.
Keith? Yeah, actually, just going off that, Coach Mohler was on my list of things to do. Has there ever been a moment, like during a timeout or something, where you just kind of step back at Liberty Center and everything is just silent and you just like soak it all in and just kind of lose where you're at for a couple moments?
I've never done that during a game. Typically, I can't hear anything that's really going on during the games. But, the other night at practice, we were getting ready, finishing up, stretching and stuff out on our field. And I kind of looked around at the facilities and just said, this is pretty incredible what we've got here. And I told the team that. I said, look around. We don't have the biggest, stands around. But I told him, I guarantee it's going to be full every Friday. And our facilities are new and top notch, so we're pretty fortunate in that regard. And it is very humbling when you're down there to kind of look around. And probably the neatest thing a lot of people don't see is I'll get to school on Friday mornings, and half the seats in our stadium on the home side have blankets on them. People are there Thursday night putting blankets down, reserving a seat. And it just, people are crazy about it, and it's awesome. And I think our guys understand that, that's pretty special.
I think last question I got here for you, Coach. So talking about your defense, it was dominant as ever last season. You guys averaged 6.1 points per game during the regular season. You guys run a 3-3 multiple front defense, and you guys are, they're starting to see more and more variations of the 3-3 defense and three-man fronts from around the area. Why don't you just tell me a little bit about, why you guys like that and why you believe your defense has been so dominant?
Last year was the first year we really ran kind of the 3-3 stack. Prior to that, we'd kind of been a 3-4 defense. Mm-hmm. Coach Lindgren was always a big odd front guy. He wanted to nose guard over the center, and so that's kind of where it started. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, we were a 5-2. But going into last year, as a staff, we talked and said, look, we're going to have three really good linebackers that I would like to see them tackle to tackle and be able to run and get to the ball. We knew we were going to have some pretty good D linemen. So we kind of just took what we already did and tweaked it a little bit to make sure that we got the right guys in the right positions on the field. And, really the credit goes to the players, because we had the right guys to do that, and they bought into it. And every defense works on paper. Every team runs variations of what every other team is doing.
Right.
And it really comes down to execution, which means you got to have the guys to do it. And we had a really, really good class of seniors last year, a really, really good class of juniors, a good class of sophomores, and they just all kind of meshed together really well for us. And it was kind of made us a pretty magical season for us.
I could have answered that question for you, Logan, when you got Owen Box and Landon Bachman as part of your D line. I'm like, yeah, that's probably gonna work pretty well for you.
Sure.
Well, I mean, when you got the horses, it makes coaching much easier.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that concludes it. Liberty Center head coach Casey Mohler, thanks for coming on, Coach, and good luck this season.
Thank you for having us, and thanks for all you do to promote sports.
Thanks.
We have Archbold head football coach David Dominique. Just want to say thanks again for coming on the show, Coach. And why don't you take us through what's the offseason been like for you guys so far?
Awesome. Well, first off, appreciate you guys having me out. Offseason for us, we had a really good offseason. We started lifting, in December with those guys that aren't in sports. And they really, obviously the way we ended last year with 2 straight losses isn't something that we like to, or anybody likes for that matter. But it's really kind of driven those guys, that we have to put in more work in order to finish strong and hopefully have a good season this year.
Kind of want to go into the next point here. You lose a big piece to your offense this year after losing second-team All-Ohio running back Carson Dominic to graduation. Does that change the identity on your offense at all, especially with quarterback Cade Brenner back for his senior season and developing as the season went on?
Well, yeah, you're going to see some differences. Obviously, you don't have that safety net is what we kind of relied on him. He could get you a couple yards no matter the situation. So we're looking for some other guys to step up, but obviously they're not the same person, and that's okay. So identity will change a little bit, but still similar style of offense that we've always done. But, yeah, with Cade Brenner coming back a second year, he's really shown that he's taken that next step in preseason. We liked what we saw last week in the scrimmage, making good decisions. That's number one, taking care of the football. And if you look back to last year, at times we had issues with that, and that really kind of plagued us at the end of the year.
Tony?
Hey, you guys are returning 14 starters, so that's going to be huge for you. How is that going to play in, and how hungry are those guys to, like you mentioned, those 2 losses into the season? It's only one team in the state doesn't end with a loss kind of thing, unless you don't make the playoffs. But, how hungry are they going to be?
Well, I think they're very hungry. We have a big senior group this year with 22, so we're really going to rely on those guys to lead the way and be the leaders of our team. So we talked about it, but yeah, that's been in our heads. Those 2 losses, obviously the loss to a very good Liberty Center team early in the year, that's something that's been on their minds. And every day, when we're having a bad day, just remind them of that. You got to bring it in order to be successful in our league and our non-conference slate that's coming up.
Yeah, and as we talked earlier, you guys play in the NWO, which we think is probably one of the toughest conferences in Northwest Ohio, if not the toughest conference in Northwest Ohio. And so you week in and week out, you're facing teams like Liberty Center, PH, Bryan. So how do you prepare? Then you want to go into your weaker schedule, as they say. The first few games you're off. Your non-league schedule. I mean, how do you prepare for week in and week out?
It's tough, it's a challenge. We like the challenge. We're going to see a lot of good players, a lot of good coaching staffs around the area. It's awesome. But honestly, you take it week by week. It seems very cliche to say that as a coach, but all that matters right now, we're focused on Eastwood today, and then we'll change our idea and start focusing on Genoa next week. But truthfully, it's day by day. You cannot waste a day, especially if you do in a league like what we play in with our non-conference slate. You're going to end up with a loss.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see you guys. Back when I was in Tinora, we played Archbold first game every year. Mm-hmm. That was kind of our thing, and then we got away from playing Archbold. Was kind of excited to see that come back on, and you guys playing Tinora again this year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're excited for that game, being so close proximity. I don't know if we traveled to St. Henry last year, so it's a little different travel distance. We still have St. Henry on the schedule, but
save a few minutes.
It will, but we're excited. We know the tradition of Tinora, and obviously all the fans that they're going to bring. We're excited for that.
AJ?
Yeah, just kind of looking at your defense a little bit. it seems like you're kind of lacking a little bit on the defensive backs coming into the season. How have you guys, as a defensive side of the ball, kind of filled in some of those holes this year?
Yeah, we bring back 4 of our 5 starters, which is a good thing. But after that, guys have very little experience.
Yeah, you're
so that is a concern. But thankfully, this preseason, we've been able to get some younger guys, kind of taking under the wing of the older guys, getting a lot of reps. Because to make it through without an injury is probably not going to happen. We know that it doesn't. So that's the big thing, though. Give them the live reps right now, so they're ready to go when their time comes on a Friday night.
Awesome, Keith.
Yeah, Coach. Like Coach Mohler, who said he had upper 60s. You guys have, 65-ish kids on your roster?
Yeah, your guys' numbers are phenomenal.
That certainly helps out during the day-to-day practices, I would assume.
It definitely does. I think over the past 5 years, we can continue to be an upward trend. A big senior group helps. We have 22 in our freshman group as well. So, and our numbers in middle school are above 50 for 7th and 8th grade. So, numbers are on the rise. It's a great thing to see. Early on, we would be upper 40s, low 50s, and I think just making it a positive experience for those guys in middle school. Everyone getting a chance. Don't worry about your wins and losses. I know it's tough to do. I tell my middle school coaches that all the time, but they do a good job getting guys on the field, because you never know what a 7th grader is going to turn into his senior year.
Keith, you got anything else?
Yeah, I got a couple. Coming in your 9th year, Coach, you're 64-24. The community always seems to come together and embrace coaches. Like Coach Frank's been there forever, Coach Downing, Coach Krause, and you're soon to be in double digits. How do you embrace that? Is that like
I always say I'm very fortunate. I grew up in Archbold. Never envisioned it being this way, being 9 years as a head football coach already. But those coaches definitely early on took me under their wing, kind of showed me the ropes, how we do things. And the biggest thing for us is we share athletes. We have to. If we're going to be successful at Archbold, our kids need to play multiple sports. So that's something that they definitely ingrained in my head, and it's something that we give it right back to everybody else. So fortunate, the longevity of those coaches. It's a great thing if you can have consistency of a coaching staff, and I've been blessed with my assistant coaches. They've been there with me since the beginning, and we've seen some good times, seen some bad times, but they stuck by my side, and that's great to have.
One point I kind of wanted to add on to, I was doing some research and saw that, you guys have 14 returning starters back, I believe 13 seniors and 1 junior. What does that mean to you as a coach to have those starters return and be such a senior-heavy team this season?
It's huge. Every year we lose good seniors. It's going to happen no matter what. But to bring back such quantity and quality, I would say, these players, it's good to have numbers, but more importantly, have guys that have been on the field before. And some of those guys that didn't start last year are definitely going to contribute early on. So we're excited to have that. It's always nice to have an older team. You guys, that you don't want to start a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. We'll see some guys on the field that are young, but it's the older guys' job to kind of get them up to speed quickly in order to be able to play and contribute positively on a Friday.
One more question here. You got something, Tony?
I got something. Yeah,
go ahead.
To kind of go off of that, we had a talk with Coach Inselmann last year. Is how do you keep people interested? As kids nowadays, we're calling it kind of like the microwave mentality. They want it now. How do you keep those sophomores and freshmen and interested when you're so senior heavy and that the playing time might be limited for them, even though they might be great athletes?
Yeah, that is a great question. I've talked to other coaches about it. What do you do? The biggest thing is making them understand that every position, no matter whether you play one player or one play 150 plays on a Friday night, everybody matters on the team. And specifically, focusing on development at JV freshman levels. I think obviously at Liberty Center they do a great job of that. All their levels, they are competitive no matter what. But making them feel that they're important no matter what, make them feel like a part of the team. I don't think there's one solution to it. We really focus on special teams. This is your freshmen, sophomores. It's your chance to get on the field for meaningful minutes. So we really try to push that, and I think our kids have done a great job buying into that and hope to continue to improve upon it. It's not always the best, obviously, but we got to continue to improve in that aspect.
Good. Last question here for you, Coach. Why don't you talk a little bit about your offensive line and defensive lines? They return with plenty of experience. How is it that they're going to help out your team this season and maybe help to kind of compensate for some of the areas you lack?
Yeah, we have 3 starters back that actually started since their sophomore year, and Mason Siegel, Brian Burrows, and Wyatt Ripke. So those 3 guys have played a lot of snaps on the offensive and defensive lines to kind of double up a little bit for us. But having them back, obviously, it's been a smooth transition in preseason. Usually I feel like the offensive line's the last part to start clicking. These guys really have gotten us going early on, to kind of get all of our other skilled guys going. So whereas last year we felt like we had most experience back in the backfields, where this year now they're going to kind of carry us early on until we get up to speed. So I'm excited for those guys. We'll probably have 4 seniors starting on the offensive line, which we've never had that before, but we're excited to have it. And they're also, it helps. There's some big guys, the smallest one being 215 pounds, which usually we're way smaller up front than that.
Yeah. All right. Good deal here. So that's Archbold head coach David Dominique. Thanks for coming on, Coach, and good luck this season.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
We will be taking about a 15-20 minute halftime break here. When we come back, we will be having on Tinora head football coach Eric Becker around 1:54 p.m. 3Chord is a family-owned and operated business who offers the highest quality embroidery, screen printing, sign and promotional items to customers of Northwest Ohio at competitive prices. Locations in Archbold, Napoleon, and Bowling Green. Check them out at 3chord.com. That's THREECORD.com. For any of your auto body or collision needs, be sure to check out Bat and Stevens Body Shop, voted the #1 body shop in Northwest Ohio by Crescent News readers. Give them a call today at 419-497-3111 to schedule your free estimate. Check out Tinora Rams Live. Live events broadcast on YouTube and post-game results, articles, schedules, and more can all be found on TinoraRams.com. Feel free to look up their Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram pages as well. Fairchild Family Chiropractic aims to help families to get better together in the least invasive way possible. Dr. Fairchild focuses on the neck using the Blair technique and Palmer package, adjusting to correct spinal misalignments. Located in Defiance, Ohio, call Dr. Fairchild today at 419-576-5070 to schedule an appointment. Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty is a top real estate agent in Northwest Ohio. Crystal's compassion and enthusiasm allow her to find that special property or house just for you. Located in Bryan, Ohio, give her a call today at 419-799-1243. Jimenez Basketball Academy strives to create an atmosphere to cultivate basketball fundamentals in Northwest Ohio youth athletes, offering one-on-one sessions, group sessions, speed and agility training, and much more. Located in Pettisville, Ohio, call Coach Jesse today at 419-551-8105. The Drop Zone Pizzeria is the #1 voted pizza restaurant in the region. Check them out for pizza, wings, subs, and more. Located in Ayersville and Stryker, or ask them about their traveling food trailer. Optimal Performance Fitness is your go-to gym in Northwest Ohio, providing group fitness classes, personal training, and sports performance sessions for area athletes. Located in Napoleon, Ohio, give them a call today at 419-438-7265. Northwest Ohio Basketball hosts premier basketball tournaments for boys in grades 3 to 8 in the area. Upcoming tournaments are right around the corner. Give them a call today at 419-283-5296 or check out their website at nwoball.com. The Thunderdome is your local indoor softball and baseball facility offering private lessons, turf infield, batting cages, and pitching machine rentals, even offering a golf simulator. Located in Archbold, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-906-3643. Nicely Rentals and Storage is your go-to venue for graduation parties, birthdays, weddings, and more. Also offering vehicle storage, table and chair rentals, and U-Haul equipment. Located in Ayersville, Ohio. Give them a call today at 419-439-6177. All right, we're going to keep things on schedule here and get things going. Up here next, we have Tinora head football coach and Eric Becker. Thank you for coming on the show, Coach, and why don't you kind of go into how the offseason has been so far?
No problem. Thanks for having us. Interesting offseason. First change in 25 years at the school. We retained most of the staff. Got a really good group of seniors that really bought into what we were selling them. Excited for a little bit of change and kind of hit the ground running this summer. Good participation at the weight program in June and July, and by the time camp started, they wanted to hit somebody else.
Do you feel like coming into the season, there's a high amount of pressure coming in, being the first year head coach at Tinora in quite some time? So,
yeah, it's never easy to be the guy to replace the guy, especially with one who kind of set the standard for the program and basically changed the way Tinora football was played. So a lot of respect goes out to him. but we're excited. There are some nerves. It's getting a little bit closer. I'm sure next Friday is going to take a little bit to settle down for me as far as being the guy in charge. But as far as game plan, we love the X's and O's parts of the game. We sit there in the office and just go over it and over it and over it, and we're really excited.
You know, you kind of mentioned it too. You know, it's been 20 plus years since Tinora has had their another coaching change. How have the athletes responded to the new changes with you as a head coach?
I think most of them are really excited. Not that they were disinterested in the old system, but they were excited for change because they knew we were going to change stuff a little bit. Sometimes you need a new voice to keep the kids buying in. It's hard after years and years of the same thing. It might not be the most exciting thing to still do, but now there's a new voice, and we really haven't changed a ton as far as our structure day-to-day to practice. We're still doing the same things we've always done because that's how we learned as coaches to do it. So it's just some new verbiage, a little bit of changes, wrinkles here in the offense. Other than that, I think the kids are really excited, really pumped up to do this.
Tony?
Hey, Eric, obviously, we're going to follow you closely with Tinora Rams Live. We'll be at every game. And, last year, got to watch you guys move through the season, and obviously with all the turmoil in the middle of the season. But you guys did well. And you went the second round of the playoffs, beat a very good Highland team that had one of the great running backs in the state. And, with a staff that was kind of just pieced together there in the middle and to try to hold things together after everything went down. But, what are you guys looking for this year? I mean, is it, that you talked about the excitement, looking to get back to that playoff rounds?
The standard's still the same. Standard is to compete for a GMC title every year, make the playoffs, and hopefully try and make a deep push. We'd love to put a couple more boards up for regional final champs and get our shot at getting in there with that Final Four, letting the pieces fall where they are.
Yeah, and you guys made a change in the middle of the season last year with Dominique Graziani coming in at quarterback, and how has he grown in the off season?
A lot has been put on Dom's shoulders. We kind of told him we will go as far as you do, as far as succeeding as a quarterback. That you have to have that guy. And he's really embraced that role. He's had struggles early in the summer because it was a whole new route tree.
Yep.
There's more passing concept. It's just not standing there, turn around, hand the ball off to somebody, maybe throwing the ball 7 to 10 times a game. So he had to learn the entirety of the offense because he's got linemen coming up to him, asking him, hey, what do I do here? He has to know all 11 positions on the field, and he's really embraced it. He's kind of a quiet leader. He really doesn't speak out a ton to the guys, but when he gets in that huddle, they know, hey, he's the guy. Okay. The ball goes through him.
Good. AJ?
I was just going to kind of ask about if you wanted to elaborate a little bit on what you've changed with the offense. We've kind of hinted around about how it's going to be a little different this year. Would you mind elaborating as much as you're willing to here?
We're still Tinora football. We still want a power run. But you don't want to run with 10, 11 people, 10 people in the box. If we can empty the box out a little bit, if people want to go heavy, we're going to have the ability to throw the ball. Dom's got a really strong arm. He's a smart kid. If you go out and you want to play us in a blanket kind of zone, you've got two kids in Grady and Joey who are going to love to put their shoulder down and run over people.
Awesome. It's good to hear that Tinora's going to have some variety in its offensive playbook this year.
We wanted to keep our goal, and every coach will say it, we want to be 50-50. As much as we can, 50-50. We know there's going to be games we're going to have to throw the ball and really depend on throwing the ball to win. But then there's also games where we know, hey, these guys got a really good defensive backfield. We got to be able to run the ball still. So one game it might be 70-30 one way, and the next game it might be the other. And then there might be the games where it's like, hey, the run game is working tonight. We get to take it off.
Good.
Keith?
I got a couple for you, Coach. The senior class actually brought you, I think, a Little League title back in 2018, if I recall.
They were the last of the 3 in a row, the youth state champions.
How does that feel to coach these seniors, to be your first class as a head coach?
I talked about it on the Black Swamp podcast. This group of seniors was the last group that I had in the Little League, and knowing I got to be the first one that introduced them to Tinora football the way it's supposed to be, and now I get to be the last. They come through. I get to be the last voice in their head, and it's really special. I got a really close relationship with these seniors beyond. My son graduated 2 years ago now, a year ago. So I've known these kids. They're friends of them. But these guys are really, really special. They have, from the first time they ever put pads on, most of them were, I'll run through that brick wall if you tell me to. All I want to do is play Tinora football.
Last one I have for you, Coach. Take us back to the day that you actually found out you're going to be the next head coach of Tinora football.
It was kind of crazy. I don't remember who we were playing that night in basketball, but I found out about a week before everybody else. Coach Rudder called me on a Thursday and offered me the job, and that was an easy yes. It was a really easy yes. Beyond being Tinora, but being from Tinora, going through it, and I told most of the people know, this community is my family. I'm not just another guy coming in off the street. It means probably more to me than it would somebody else coming in from off the street. Then it was just an onslaught of interview after interview after interview. Getting a little bit more used to it now.
I think got one more time, or a little bit of time for one last question. I got one for you here, Coach. On defense, you bring back a lot of experience in the back half with talented linebacker core. You know, you have Gus Weiler, Guy Singer, and Rostai, and you have some experienced defensive backs. You've discussed how you may tweak the offense a little to kind of fit your personnel. How important will it be for your defense to start the season off fast to allow for your offense and some of the inexperienced players on offense to develop?
Our defense is huge. I think we're returning, let's see, 2, 3 maybe. I think we're only replacing really 2 starters on the defense, which is amazing. Casey coming back as a defensive coordinator is a huge bonus. Another guy who lived life at the school, understands what it is that we ask. Finding some rotational kids to go in to give some kids some breaks. Our back end is senior laden. I think we're only going to have 1 junior maybe in the backfield now. The rest are seniors. They're the leaders of the defense. Everything goes through Grady and Joey. Joey's kind of a funny, quirky kid who, if you look at him, you would never expect him to play the way he does. He's the rock of our defense. Everything goes through Joe.
All right, I think we got time. Maybe one more here. Anyone?
Yeah, the GMC this year is very different all the way around. So many coaching changes in the last year to 2 years. Ayersville, Fairview is going back to Coach Rakes. Then you have Hicksville's got a new coach. Paulding had their coaching changes last year with the interim coach. It's a lot of changes in the coaching staff in GMC. What are you looking forward to the most as far as teams to play and progress?
It's interesting that there hasn't been this much change in years. You go back to thinking 5 years ago, Coach Altmus at Antwerp, he was a 20-plus year guy. You had Coach Dales at Ayersville. You had Coach Krause at Tinora. Coach Rakes had just been in his first couple of years of his tenure at Fairview, and he was the new guy. And to think him and Coach Hale are the veterans of the group it's amazing. We're really looking forward to the change. I know everybody's going to bring their own wrinkle, more than likely, just as everybody's going to see in us. Everybody's going to put their stamp on their program, how they want it. And we'll throw them out there on Friday nights and let them shake down.
All right. I want to thank Tinora head football coach Eric Becker. Thanks for coming on, and good luck this season, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
We have Ayersville head coach Andrew Mickey. Thank you for coming on the show today, Coach. Jeez. Let's go ahead. Tell us a little bit about what the offseason's been like for the Pilots so far.
Thanks for having me, guys. The off season, it's been an adjustment for me a little bit this year. Now that I'm actually on staff at Ayersville, I've gotten a teaching job there, so I've been able to be in the building a little bit more, and that's made things as the football coach much easier for me to be around more and more available. So in that regard, it's been a lot better. As far as participation goes, it's been awesome. We've had higher numbers than we had last year. Lots of participation, lots of junior high guys coming in. So I'm pretty excited about that and the development of that program. So really, really positive offseason so far.
All right, let's get in here and talk some football. I saw you're sitting with former coach Doug Rakes. Something I wanted to kind of get into. I mean, you coached under him as a defensive coordinator, and you have another teammate that you played with, and Justin Davis over at Hicksville. Will those games have any extra meaning this season?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even last year coaching at Fairview in Week 10, I mean, that was a special game for me to go over there. It was a little bit odd, if I'm being honest. I coached over there for so long,
right?
And then being in the other locker room and being on the other sideline,
yeah.
It was a bit of a surreal experience at first, and then you settle in and it's like any other game.
Sure.
But being across the field from Coach Rakes and trying to match wits with him, and how much I respect him as a coach and how much I've learned from him, and still do. I still call him for stuff, and he's still nice enough to indulge me the occasional nuggets of wisdom. So, yeah, very grateful and looking forward to that opportunity to compete against him, and I'm sure he feels the same.
Good deal. Next point here I got for you. You may have one of the most experienced and talented offensive and defensive lines returning in the GMC. How important is it that they control the line of scrimmage starting at the beginning of the season, to maybe allow for some of the inexperienced skill positions to develop?
Oh, man, it's huge. Being as experienced and talented as we are, we're going to be up front on both sides of the football, like you said. It brings a foundation, a stability. You know what you're going to get out of those trenches, and if you can win the trenches, you can win a lot of ball games, and we have to start there, and that's going to be where we hang our hat. We kind of learned that last year as we went along. I think I've talked about this a few times in the off season. Our season opener last year against Delta, our ratio was close to 50-50. And we lost that football game, obviously. Excuse me. And coming back that next week against Delphus Jefferson, our ratio was about 82-18. We ran the ball and just ran the ball and just ran the ball and had a really successful week 2. And I'll never forget in the coach's office after that ball game, we're like, well, I think I know who we are. That's our identity. Our kids want to run the football, and that's going to be where we hang our hat. And those kids are all back for the most part. We got some, like you said, new skill position players that we're going to count on to carry the football behind those big guys up front that we trust.
Tony?
Yeah, talking about the skill position players, obviously you graduated your quarterback and Blake Honstein, and obviously he was the kind of leader of that offense last year. But you're bringing back Abe Delano. You got a big target out there. I mean, what's it going to be like with your new quarterback? And can you talk about him a little bit?
Our signal caller this year is going to be Lucas Fishpaw. He's a senior, and he's got a lot of experience in the stuff that we do. He played receiver, and he was our backup quarterback last year, so he did get reps. And he knows our routes. He knows the reads for the run game. He knows how to get us in the right play. We trust him to get the right things done. Now, we're not going to ask him to do the same things that we ask Blake to do. I mean, Fish is from being generous, 5'9", 5'10", maybe, and about 170 pounds, whereas Blake was 6'1", 210. Right. I could run quarterback ISO and be all right with that. I mean, Blake was built more like a fullback, so you adjust some of the things that you do, and that's, as a high school coach, you've got to do that as you go because you don't get to recruit. You got the kids that you got. And,
exactly.
Fish has strengths that we'll try to utilize. And we'll move away from some of the things that maybe he wouldn't do as well as other guys. So it's all in how you build that. And like you said at first, Logan, you kind of use that foundation up front and let those new skill guys. The other new guy we got in the backfield is Torrin Knieven. He's a junior. He'll be taking the running back position over for Owen Berner. And man, he's really developed his body in the offseason. He put on 15 pounds of good weight. He ran track in the spring with Coach Manriquez, and I'll tell you what, he picked up a fumble last year in that Delta game and ran it back for a touchdown. And I like to mess with him. I'll pull that up sometimes and juxtapose his running technique in that fumble return, and his arms are swinging and all over the place. One spring out in the track, and his running form is a lot better, and his speed is much better. So he's improved a lot. We're really excited to see him and what he's going to be able to do for us this year.
Good deal. AJ?
Yeah, just kind of talking. I asked Coach Becker about the GMC this year. Going into the beginning of the season here, Antwerp is going to be obviously the one to beat. They've got a lot of talent returning. They've got, the coaching experience there. Outside of Antwerp, what do you look forward to the most as far as, getting that win?
Oh man, I think it's a deep league. I mean, there's no down weeks with the teams that struggled a little bit last year. I think a lot of it was youth, and with everything those teams are bringing back, and there's any number of teams that could be in contention for the league title this year. So, I'm just looking forward to getting out there each week and throwing the footballs out and some good, honest competition and see who wins it at the end.
Awesome. Keith?
I got a couple for you, Coach.
Lay it on me.
Victory bell.
Yes, sir.
What's that mean?
It was a pretty special experience to go over there, and my house is only a few miles from Tinora, so to be on that field and win that bell, I think it was the first time since 2016. So be out there, our kids were ringing that bell, and we rang it all the way back up Domersville Road as we took it home to Ayersville. So we'd love to be able to defend that bell when Tinora drives down Domersville to come see us this year and retain that bell. I think it'll be, if we can hang on to that bell, it'll be the first time back-to-back since the early 2000s. I want to say 2006, but I'm not positive.
Another question I had for you. You stepped away from coaching, 2021, I believe. You and Garrett did some games on the radio.
Yes, sir.
Kind of gave you a little bit of different perspective, I guess, step back. How did you enjoy that? I guess you were kind of one of us, honestly.
A little bit, yeah. It took me a minute to enjoy it. At first, I think I was talking to you, Logan, before we went on here about the nerves a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely had that my first game I called was, after being a longtime assistant at Fairview, was Fairview-Wasion. And I was back at Fairview and getting ready to call a game, and I didn't want to mess Garrett up. And I tell you what, if you guys have never seen Garrett operate from he's calling play-by-play while he's punching in statistics on an iPad, while he's queuing up the next radio drop. He doesn't miss a beat or misspeak or fumble his words. It's one of the most impressive things. Half the time I'm sitting there just my jaw's on the floor and I'm staring at him, and I forget to interject football things that I'm supposed to be saying, like, oh hey, that's a good kick out block and lead through. I'm just staring at Garrett like, wow, that's impressive, man.
Last thing I had for you, Coach, which you kind of touched upon earlier. Last year when you and Coach McCord probably shared a little giggle, I would assume, before the kickoff. If you obviously Fairview and him obviously Ayersville ties, kind of looking at each other's shirts like, what's going on here?
Oh, it wasn't a giggle. It was a big old bear hug, and I love you, Coach, and I love that man. Craig McCord is somebody I've known for a long time. When I came down from Detroit to go to Defiance College, Craig was on staff there, and I was never. He was our special teams coordinator. I never actually got to play for Craig as a position coach, but I still had a personal relationship, even though I didn't get to be on special teams because I was a little too big for that when I was in college. I was a nose tackle and I wasn't quite fleet of foot enough to be a special teamer. At least not for his liking, but I still had a really close relationship with Craig, and then later on he came on. Coach Rakes was smart enough to talk him into coaching with us over at Fairview, and we had a couple really great years, and he's still over there helping out, coaching the D-line and the O-line and special teams. And don't tell him how old he is, because he sure as heck doesn't act like it. He's as passionate and as fiery as ever, I'm sure. But yeah, that was really special seeing Coach Mack out there. Love that, man.
I think last question here for you, Coach. What will it take for your team to win the GMC this season and make a playoff run?
Well, we got to lean on that foundation that we've been talking about, the O-line, D-line, really win the trenches battle. So establish a run and control the ball. I don't think we were disciplined enough last year with our turnovers. We had a little too many of those. So we really want to eliminate those and the mental mistakes. If we do that, we're going to be in position at the end of a lot of games. You look at our 4 losses, we were in all those games. If we just, and any coach does this after a loss. You look at this play or that play. If that had gone different, what happens? If this had gone different, and
sure.
We've got to make sure that those key plays, we're disciplined and those things go our way. So we're working really hard to try to eliminate those mental mistakes.
All right, Ayersville head football coach Andrew Mickey, thanks for coming on, Coach, and good luck this season.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, Coach.
Good luck. All right, let's get things started here. On next here, we have Fairview head coach and Doug Rakes. Thanks for coming on the show, Coach. And why don't you go ahead and kick it off? What's the offseason been like so far?
Well, it's been pretty solid so far. Kids have been good. Attitudes have been solid, and work ethic has been really high. And for these kids, this is actually, I was thinking the other day, this is their fourth offense that they've had to learn within the last just over 2 years. So
wow.
There's a bit of a learning curve there for them, but they've handled it really well so far. And thankfully, defensively, we're running the same scheme, so we're a little further ahead probably defensively than what we are offensively at this point. But it's just like everyone at this point, just a work in progress still.
Why don't you tell us a little bit? I know we were just talking about it. What is it that drew you back to coaching after you took a little bit of a break off? What kind of brought you back to the coaching?
Well, 2 words, 1 name, Travis Cooper. He's probably my best friend, and I was ready to be done with coaching after the 2020 season. And to be quite honest, I enjoyed that year off. So he got me back into it as an assistant. Didn't know how it was going to go, but shortly after a few practices, the juices started flowing again, and that itch came back, and here we are today.
Next question I got for you. You're back to Fairview. What are some of the main things you want to focus on in your first year back as head coach?
I think one of the big things after the last few seasons that they've had, and on the heels of an 0-10, is just trying to get the kids to believe in themselves and to buy into what we're trying to sell them and what we're trying to build, and really just learning how to compete again. And especially, in our conference with the better teams in our conference, and our non-league is always a difficult non-league. I would say mostly just learning how to compete and getting them to believe in what we're doing and in themselves.
Sure. Tony?
You mentioned it right there, Coach, that you're getting them to buy in. So, what's it been like so far in the off season to get them to trust in the system that you're trying to teach?
I think they've done a good job so far. I got a group of kids, I think, that are hungry to win. I think it's just a matter of not necessarily knowing how. And that's kind of what we're working on right now, is just those little things that, if you've been around football long enough, you guys understand what winning habits are and what losing habits are. And we're talking about just the way you go about your practices, the way you go about the way you carry yourself in the locker room and in the hallways. So
100%.
Those are the things right now that we're really working on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big one. It's, being good people is number one thing, and if you can get them to be good people, then that kind of just starts building the program.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see you come back and get back into coaching, and being at Fairview, like you said, 0-10. You're looking up from there, right?
Yeah, only one way to go, hopefully.
AJ?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned this is like the 4th new offense you guys have worked on in the last, it's like 2.5 years, 3 years, whatever it is. What is your offense going to look like this year? As much as you're willing to elaborate on that.
Well, what I know the best is a spread attack in the passing game, but you got to be flexible and be able to adjust with your kids. So it'll be based around spread concepts, but we may have to run a little more than what we did in 2020 and 2019, just because of the kids maybe not grasping the offense completely yet. So we'll have to see how things evolve and what they're able to handle as we continue down the path of the season.
Absolutely.
Keith?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Coach. Obviously, you've been down this road before. You kind of rebuilt Fairview. Your first 4 years were, I think, sub 500. Then you build them into probably the best team in the area for another 4 years. So, obviously, you know the blocks that it takes to build up your program again. So, can you kind of elaborate? Can you explain that to the kids? Have you done that? Like, hey, we've already been down. You personally been down this road once before, and here's the steps that we're going to take to build us back to where we were really not that long ago.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about that, and I have to be careful about it because, I have seen it before. It's like reliving the first go-around, and I've been pretty forthcoming with the kids about, hey, I know how this goes. I've read this book before, and this is what it's going to take. And it's one of those things. Again, you have to kind of be careful with it because you don't want to shut them off and make them think that you're comparing them to some of those teams in the past. I think it's important to to kind of make them understand the process, but at the same time also let them understand that the number one, I guess, comparison that we make is with ourselves from a day-to-day basis. And, we're not necessarily looking at them to right away be those groups that, that we had in 2018, 2019, 2020. It's a process, and we're trying to help them understand that.
I got a next question for you here, Coach. Fairview's coming off an 0-10 season. What is it that you're looking for out of your team in 2023 to consider it being a successful year?
I think it's a mindset more than anything. How did they carry themselves? And we had a 7-on-7 a couple weeks ago, and we didn't perform the greatest. I mean, we did some good things, but there were some things that we needed to work on, and we, by no means, did we come out on the top end of the scoreboard in either one of them. Sure. And the bus ride home, it wasn't exactly the way that I would want it, and the way that I would want it focused. So that was we discussed that when we got back, and again, I'll go back to just starting to do things what I would say is the right way. Right. Starting to practice those winning habits and starting to see the growth. Right. To me, if I start to see that, and we've already seen a lot of it early on in the season, but if we continue to grow and continue to do the right things and do things the right way, I would consider that a successful season.
Next question I got. I brought it up to Coach Mickey earlier. So, you guys used to coach together. What's that game look like and mean to you this year?
That's going to be a big game for us. I know Andrew, I know him really well. We're very good friends, having coached together for a while. We were at DC together. When I first talked to him, when I first came back, he was really excited about that game. But I've been in that situation before, coaching against Travis Cooper, a good friend, and, I root for them every week except for the weeks that they play you. And being in the head coaching game, you understand how devastating these losses are to you. It's tough to get over losses, let alone a loss against a good friend of yours. So while he was excited about that opportunity, I wasn't really looking forward to it because I know that's one week that I'm not going to be able to root for him to be victorious on a Friday night.
Yeah. All right. I think we got time. One last question here. You guys got anything?
I got one. And what's the odds that you can get the Defiance Bulldogs on the schedule? Maybe
I'd say pretty low, since they have one non-league a year, and that's a rivalry that I think this town would burn down if you took that away.
All right. Anyone else? Nope. I think we're good here. All right. Fairview head coach Doug Rakes. We appreciate you coming on, Coach, and good luck this season.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right. All right. Well, just wrapping things up. That concludes the NWO Sports Preseason Kickoff Show. Just like to say some thank yous here. I'd like to thank all of our sponsors for supporting NWO Sports, 3-Chord, Bat Stevens Body Shop, Tinora Rams Live, Fairchild Family Chiropractic, Jimenez Basketball Academy, Crystal Vasquez of Amerimaid Realty, the Drop Zone Pizzeria, Optimal Performance Fitness, Northwest Ohio Basketball, the Thunderdome, Nicely Rentals and Storage. I also want to thank again Defiance Physical Therapy for allowing us to host this event and congratulate them again on 10 years of business. Round of applause. I would also like to give a special shout out to my family members. My wife Grace, she's helped me out tremendously with this. My parents Mike and Stacy Bailey, my grandparents Jeff and Jean Batt, in-laws Josh and Julie Burkholder, and these guys up here, Tony, Keith, and AJ. This show wouldn't be what it is without these guys. I'd like to thank Matthew out in the crowd too. He's a big contributor of Northwest Ohio sports, so thank you to him as well. Without all these people's efforts, this wouldn't have been possible today. So I just want to thank everyone again for coming out, and stay tuned for the next NWO Sports podcast in the near future. And thanks again for coming.